You were expecting Branagh to go small? Based on what? How do you make an Agatha Christie adaptation, specifically one of the Poirot mysteries no less, work as a pre-holiday blockbuster offering in 2017? Well, the joke, of course, would be to opine that you'd probably have to turn it into a goddamn superhero movie. Except that's basically what they've done here. Not in the obvious sense of adding a bunch of overly frenetic editing and extraneous fight scenes like the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies. Did you already forget that that happened? Because it did, it totally did. But in the sense that this is a big, colorful, melodramatic story filled with larger-than-life characters that centers on a determined seeker of justice who aims to save the day while grappling with the internal contradiction that the superhuman special skill that makes him a force for good also is a curse that prevents him from leading a normal life. I mean, what else do you call that? And how else do you think they got a studio to shell out for an Agatha Christie movie in this century? In any case, if you're unfamiliar with the story, widely considered to be one of the most important works of detective fiction ever written from one of the unquestioned masters of the form, the hook here is that this is a confined space murder mystery in the vein of Christie's own And Then There Were None, or perhaps more relevantly at this point, Clue, except that instead of a sprawling old dark mansion, the inexplicably murdered dead body and seemingly random collection of eccentric secret-keeping characters, one of whom must be the killer, are all stuck on a lavish luxury train in order to add an extra dimension of uncertainty to the ticking clock of working out the solution and the much smaller margin of error in terms of how anyone could have done anything without being noticed in this place. Fortunately, or, you know, not if you're the one who done it, the passenger list just so happens to include the director and star Kenneth Branagh as Hercule Poirot, a retired Belgian police inspector, owner of Earth's mightiest mustache, and who also happens to be the world's greatest detective. Penelope Cruz, Willem Dafoe, Judi Dench, Johnny Depp, Josh Gad, Derek Jacobi, Leslie Odom Jr., Michelle Pfeiffer, Daisy Ridley, Tom Bateman, Marwan Kenzari, Olivia Boynton, Manuel Garcia Rolfo, and Sergei Polonin are the passengers, and that's pretty much what you need to know for this to be a spoiler-free review, because even though this is a book from the 1930s that they've filmed a whole bunch of times before this, it does kind of have one of like the most famous solutions in the entire detective canon, so I'd still feel like a dick if I gave it away for you. Besides, what's interesting about this version is the various ways Branagh finds, both as director and star, to wring big screen excitement out of a story that's 90% comprised of scenes where Poirot has a leading conversation with a suspect, listens intently to their answers to his questions, dramatically points out all the ways he knows they were lying about half of them, and then does that exact same thing to like 7 or 8 more people, primarily by going and turning both the character's eccentricities and his own well-documented flair for directing himself in florid, show-stopping, man-in-the-spotlight dramatic set pieces that here add up to nothing less than the classy grown-up drama version of Michael Bay strapping on a dynamite vest to play his own explosion. I mean, let's just put it this way. The "What is a man" speech from Hamlet Act 4 Scene 4 is no longer the most over-the-top thing Branagh has ever directed himself doing on top of a mountain. He doesn't so much chew the scenery as draw it into his gravitational pull like a collapsing star, and it's actually kind of amazing to behold. The script by Michael Greene remains fairly true to the original text, subtly upgrading a handful of story points in order to feature a more diverse cast, but its main reworkings are Poirot himself, leaning hard on the popular modern interpretation of detective characters from this era, i.e. eccentric guys with wacky personalities and cranked-up deduction skills, as being perhaps some variation on neuroatypical, in order to craft a dramatic arc for Branagh to frame his characterization around. This Poirot is a benevolently fussy, detail-obsessed loner whose complete physical inability to not notice and be irritated by every single thing that's slightly askew or out of place in the world or in people make him a near-perfect crime solver, but also makes his existence otherwise a little bit miserable. And as fun as it is watching one of modern acting's greatest living hams re-earn his infamy in scenes where Poirot shows off just how damn good he is, he also nails the quieter moments that spell out what it's like for this person to completely understand how his mind works and still be unable to turn it off. The arc, meanwhile, comes in the idea that Poirot has come to hold his crime fighter sense of right and wrong in this same inflexible order versus deviation manner, and suffice it to say the particulars of who the victim in Murder on the Orient Express was and why someone might have wanted them dead represent a profound challenge to that sort of worldview, which is an interesting spin to put on it, all things considered. Beyond that, the pleasures involved are mainly what you'd expect from this property, watching a cast of accomplished actors in fabulous costumes inhabit opulently designed surroundings and belt out character-establishing monologues in arch operatic tempo, while the cinematography throws itself into elaborate tracking shots and meticulous overhead compositions designed to ensure that sitting around a train with awful people doesn't, you know, feel like you're sitting around a train with awful people. Now, obviously, no one in the cast is ever going to get to come close to nudging Branagh off his own stage, but Pfeiffer gets to be nice and complicated, while Ridley, Odom, and Dafoe are probably the main standouts. Granted, there's not a tremendous amount of depth to be mined here beyond enjoying seeing the mechanism work itself out. It's a movie about solving a puzzle and being a big, dramatic, and showy spectacle while doing it. And on those merits, Murder on the Orient Express is a very big success, and since it's clear they want to make at least another one of these, I hope they do. 3 stars, worth checking out.